and welcome to the Constitutional Clarion. Today I'm standing, as you can see, outside Buckingham Palace because today is an interesting day constitutionally. It's a day when we will have a change of Prime Minister and a change of ministry. So, in the United Kingdom, of course. So, how does that actually happen in the United Kingdom? Actually, it's quite interesting. If you compare with the Australian position, in Australia, we have a Prime Minister who would formally send a letter of resignation to the Governor-General, and then they would remain a caretaker Prime Minister until the change of government occurs. Now, the change of government occurs when the Governor-General swears in the new Prime Minister. There is a formal commission which is written and signed by the Prime Minister. And, sorry, there's a fair bit of distraction going on out there because I think the former Prime Minister, current Prime Minister, Liz Truss, is arriving so that she can resign her commission to the monarch. So as I was saying, in Australia, it's all done very formally and it's done publicly, so it's televised as well. And yes, helicopters as well at the moment, all a bit exciting here. But the interesting thing in the United Kingdom is that it's not done publicly. It's done behind closed doors. So all the public can see, and here with the helicopter above, is that the Prime Minister goes into Buckingham Palace and then leaves Buckingham Palace no longer Prime Minister, and then a new person arrives and then becomes Prime Minister. So how does that happen? Well, it actually happens by the monarch, now the King, just simply asking the person to become Prime Minister and to form a government. There's no formal commission, unlike in Australia. There's no formal signing of anything. There are no formal oaths taken on the spot. There's no formal meeting of the Privy Council that confirms it. It's simply done by the monarch orally agreeing for this to happen. Then, later on, a new ministry will be formed this afternoon. So how does that happen? Well, in the United Kingdom, there are two sorts of ministers. Senior ministers, who are secretaries of state, and junior ministers, who are just called minister for whatever. And when it comes to secretaries of state, it's an odd principle. There's a doctrine that says that there's only one office of secretary of state. So all secretaries of state are simply performing the one office and can therefore perform the duties of each other. But what's interesting is that they then create particular secretaries of state as corporation sole, and that gives them a legal personality and the legal power to do things. Now, as part of that, they get a seal of state. No, not the sort of seal that swims around in a swimming pool, but it's a seal that you seal documents with. And that seal of state is their authority to make decisions and to execute powers under statute. So what's interesting here is that the process of becoming a minister, according to the Cabinet Manual, is that you hand over, the departing minister hands over the seals of state to the monarch, and then the monarch hands the new seals of state to the new minister, and that's what makes them a minister. Now, it became very interesting where this process was interrupted when the Queen died. You might remember the Queen appointed Liz Truss as Prime Minister on the 6th of September. And on the 7th of September, there was supposed to be a meeting of the Privy Council at which things were going to happen. Ministers were going to be sworn in, they were going to take oaths, the seals of state were going to be given to them, and that's what would have made them ministers. But the Queen was unwell on the 7th of September. That Privy Council meeting didn't happen. So then on the 8th of September, the Queen died without that process having taken place. Now, it had been announced that all of those people had become ministers on the 6th of September on the assumption that all the paperwork would have taken place, but it didn't. And in fact, it didn't until the 13th of September, which leaves this sort of interesting gap. These ministers, these secretaries of state, only got their state seals on the 13th of September, and indeed Liz Truss, as Prime Minister, only got her seal as First Lord of the Treasury and swore her oath before the Privy Council on the 12th of October, almost 5 weeks after she became Prime Minister. So were these people really ministers in the meantime? Well, there's a lot of fudging that goes on here in the United Kingdom about this issue. Some people think, well, they were ministers in the political sense, but maybe they can't exercise their legal powers under statutes until they're formally Secretary of State and have received their seals of office. Other people think, oh, look, you're just being too technical. The reality is they have the power to do what they're doing and you shouldn't really worry about it. Well, should we be concerned about these things? In the United Kingdom, there is a long history of changing things gradually, doing a bit of fudging in relation to this and just basically bumbling through. And on the one hand, that's actually quite a good thing because it results in flexibility. You want your constitution to be able to be flexible, so there wasn't really a crisis when the monarch died and this Privy Council meeting hadn't taken place. That's true, there was no crisis. But on the other side, there are real problems here in relation to transparency. There's no formal published documentation which actually establishes when a minister is appointed and when they cease to be a minister. There are just assertions made, like on the Prime Minister's website. There's a Privy Council record of when the seals were handed over, but you talk to any constitutional professors and the like, and you get different views as to when people became ministers. And the Cabinet Manual itself says they only become a minister at the point when those seals are handed over. So the final point to make here is, does it matter? Well, in practice, probably not. For all those weird people out there who want to go and sue on these things, you're probably not going to be successful. These sorts of technicalities are not upheld by courts. But is there a problem with it? I think there is a problem in that at some time in the future, if you have a populist Prime Minister who disrespects Parliament, who disrespects the courts, he doesn't like restrictions on their powers, there are gaps there where there is a lack of transparency and a lack of formality, where power can be acquired for nefarious purposes. So from the point of view of people in the United Kingdom, actually establishing a bit more formality in relation to these things, a bit more transparency, probably would be a good thing. But for present purposes, right now, in the building behind me, a Prime Minister is ceasing to be a Prime Minister, and shortly, when we hear more helicopters and police sirens going, a new person will come along to be commissioned Prime Minister. And that's the end for the Constitutional Clarion today. I hope that explained it to you and you found it interesting. Thank you.